Good afternoon, everyone. Mount Etna, 1940s eruption, 2022 eruption, two extratropical cyclonic spins smashing over England. This chart's not something you see every day. Highest gust ever recorded in England, right along with record wind speeds northern France. Those of you in the U.S., follow the yellow brick road as the storm front passes through. Exceptional winds with this event. Greening of, the desert in Australia. Raising of interest rates. Quantitative tightening the last times this steep, 2008. And the COVID crisis cut off part of the gas for Europe, 45% to be exact. And maybe this is planned for the cover of the collapse and the ushering in of central bank digital currencies. Is 2022 the year we see capital rotation out of risk assets like crypto and stocks, jumping into safe haven assets like gold? Gold investors haven't been losing sleep over the stock market's taper tantrum, with Blackstone warning of a lost decade, quote unquote, where stock market returns are anemic. We have Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo all forecasting gold over $2,000 an ounce in 2022. And Bloomberg says there's the potential for $3,000 per ounce on their price targets. Learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. After Tonga made the news rounds for a couple of weeks, ash still swirls across the southern hemisphere. Etna, 35,000 feet on this one, expanding. Mesosat 8, visible emissions from that eruption. Also sulfur dioxide. Different views are just so stunning as it hits layers within the atmosphere. And with all these energetic shifts happening, you could expect more eruptions to continue unabated, shifting civilization as these cycles have over the last 10,000 years. 1944, large eruption at that time as well, not nearly as tall though. But into the 1970s, what do we see? That this volcano has many levels of possibility. What if it kicks up another notch? What if it goes Tonga style? How much food could we grow in the northern hemisphere at that point? Now, speaking of emissions, this satellite map here from the Guardian's article, talking about methane plumes from oil and gas. Methane. Nothing else. And these dots that you see on the map here are measured by tons per hour. So the largest dot, 500 tons per hour, smallest one, 10 tons per hour. Oil and gas production taking place. And you know, looking at this map, these pipelines would be so unnecessary if we were using antigravitics, Tesla technologies, running off the Earth's magnetic field, so you would not have to have a delivery device, except in the local region it is. Because oil and gas would be a thing of the past. Speaking of things of the past, the stability of our atmosphere is one of those through these next few years. Grand solar minimum intensification, multi-thousand-year cycles spinning, prophecies coming true. Two storms converging on themselves, creating that extratropical wind tunnel, blowing over the UK, into France and Germany, well, a lot of Europe. But I want to show you this chart. This is something you don't see every day. I've been looking at these charts for ages, and you just don't see this kind of rooster tail / phoenix tail. Usually it's more condensed. So that center might be all that gray or the black color, but not usually these striations. This is very unusual, what you're looking at here. What's causing those parallel winds? Electromagnetic field current on our planet? Perhaps. Speaking of winds, Isle of Wight. Highest gust ever recorded in England. How old's their history? Let me see, let me scratch my head here. Oh, thousands of years. 122 mile per hour gust. Same storm. Atmosphere is cavitating. Electromagnetic field of our planet's changing. But stay distracted, because wind records also set in northern France. Highest ever recorded. Old record of 1990 gone. Now with these wind speeds increasing, the velocity of the winds are increasing, you'll start to see exactly this here, where atmospheric patterns are now sandwiching on them. I call it a rainbow ribbon where these come together. It's quite easy to see where the front is, the extreme cold behind the extreme heat, and these fronts are marching much faster now. So this profile that you see here, the clean lines now, these rainbows, as you will go from the cooler to the warmer, are all sandwiched. You can still follow it. Go south of the Panhandle down to Mexico. Look how clean that frontal boundary is. How compressed it is pushing through. 25th February for anybody out there. Extreme wind. Beaufort scale, probably around a 4. But then behind it, cold. So, as I've said before, hang loose on planting early this year, even though it may seem that it's going to be warming up next month. There's going to be a fair few more of these fronts coming down. Why would I say that? Well, the polar vortices low is locked further toward the United States than it is toward Russia or over toward Europe, meaning a prolonged winter into spring from what you're looking at here. But in the inverse, on the other side over there, Asia, you might want to plant early, because it seems like everything's going to be trending toward North America. And as it does swing, lessened effects over in Europe, you can see where this vortex, this polar vortices, polar vortex, many names for it. But where is it centered? And this is where the cold is going to continue, I would say 3 weeks past the normal. So this year, I'm probably going to wait until the last 2 weeks of April or even the first week of May to put things in the ground. But if these winds are not telling enough that things are increasing and moving out of the flows a little bit, perfect example right here. This is February 6th, blooming desert because of substantial floods. Now that is square in the middle of Australia. And you can see something is definitely shifting there. Intertropical convergence zone is on the move once again, but it's happening really, really fast. But these areas should continue to receive more moisture going forward. So whoever bought cattle ranching land out here for pennies on the dollar just suddenly scored gold mine, because I guess your feed costs will be less with all that wild fodder out there growing. But who would have known that cycle? Jumping over to where's my bailout? Well, it should be Fed tightening, quantitative tightening. And we see when QT versus QE, quantitative easing, where just throw money like a waterfall into the market, 0% interest rates, buy, push up stock prices. But when you and I want to use our credit card, get slammed for like 15, 18%. Different rules on the farm known as Earth for the different inhabitants. But I will say, 2008, look how steeply it fell off. What we saw with the entry into COVID and an enormous amount of things being shuttered at that time. Lo and behold, what do I see? Another massive correction straight down. Now, what would that mean for our economy? Especially if there's rising energy prices. Nord Stream now no longer going to be approved. So that is going to send natural gas prices across Europe doubling, tripling, quadrupling. And that'll be a perfect excuse for a market calamity to happen. Now, which countries export natural gas to the EU? Big blue right there. Oh, that's Russia. Which makes me wonder, did they just play tit for tat all the way through the winter? Because we're coming at the end of the winter versus something like December or January to do the same thing. Because if the Russian gas were cut off in January, that would be a significant, unbelievable event in itself of how many people would not have heat in their homes or be able to cook. And that would be months, plural event moving out until it got warm enough where you could still survive, warm up in the day. We're getting to that point now where we're coming into end of February, into March. A lot of the lows in many places are above freezing even in the evenings now. So to cut off the gas, still, as substantial that would be, it wouldn't be such a cold, detrimental event as if it were to happen a month ago or 2 months ago. Because I'm looking at, there has to be excuses planned for the collapse of the economy and ushering in of the central bank digital currencies. And you already see what's happening with different banking systems across the planet. There's a lot more control on what you can access. And look at through one of the economic news feeds about how much gas truly does swirl through Europe and from which destinations, whether it be Northern Africa, like Algeria. This chart popped on here. I'd never had seen this much involvement. I knew 50% of these. So I love it that it's a U.S. intervention since World War II. Look how many there are. Because the overlapping of the awareness of fertilizer shortages and herbicide shortages into the planting season this year that are going to knock easily 10 to 12% of global agriculture offline, meaning at the end of the year when we come to the harvest, there's going to be food shortages, panic, hyperinflation in food, and people are absolutely going to lose it because it's food. It's not your television turning off. Food. There has to be even a bigger distraction because people are going to even demand more change when the food's not available. Because I find it just a little coincidental that all things are happening right now to explain away supply chain disruptions even further, which would explain away the fertilizer shortages when they already knew they were inbound last year, which I've done an enormous amount of videos on. Because if you can get a central bank digital currency system in place when 2023 food shortages are there, you can really determine who's going to have access to food, finance, or not. This thing's in 10x fast forward right now. So my question to you would be, do you think we'll have to wait to harvest season when they realize there's shortages before people start behaving differently? Or do you think that will come with the awareness of not enough fertilizer and herbicides to grow the crops we normally get per year on the planet? I don't know. It's going to be either May or September. Something significant will happen in the way that people behave. Leave your answer, thought, idea in the comment box below the video because I'm curious what you're thinking about this because I'm trying to figure it out myself. But in the meantime, we are going to have to think about self-sufficiency, storable foods, supply chains not functioning as correctly, so you might be not as frequently able to visit the supermarket, and when you get there, there might even be less goods. It's great to have some emergency food, so if something were to happen, you wouldn't have to leave your house for weeks. And as they say, you could ride out the chaos until it's safer to go on outside. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. That link's in the description box along with all the articles and images in this video tonight. I do appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.